Right, NHL prediction time. I haven't made a video in a while, and I do enjoy making them. I don't regularly have the time, but I do enjoy making them. So I thought, why not make a prediction on who's going to win the division, who's going to win the Stanley Cup, most points, the Hart Trophy, the Rocket Richards, who's going to finish dead last, and all of that stuff. So let's get right into the video. Let's start with the team predictions, and then we'll do individual player predictions. And let's start with the Central Division. Now, Central Division, to me, there are two teams that could make it. Obviously, we have Colorado and surprisingly, perhaps the Winnipeg Jets. But I'm going to go with Colorado because if you look at Colorado, what they've added and what they've lost a few players in Ryan Graves, they've lost guys like Connor Timmins, but most importantly, they have re-signed Cale Makar, they have re-signed Gabriel Landeskog. Yes, they lost Philip Grubauer, but they signed Darcy Kemp, who I think on his day could be potentially a top 3 goalie in the league. Now, obviously, last season wasn't his best season, but you have to think that wasn't on the Coyotes. He's going into a team where the defense is very solid, where the forwards are likely to outscore the other team, and that might take some pressure away from Darcy Kemper. And so, for that reason, I think that Colorado is just a bit stronger than Winnipeg. Winnipeg, as well, are very heavily reliant, I think, on Connor Hellebuck. If something happens to Hellebuck, I'm not very confident in Eric Comrie to come in and do a job as the backup. However, guys like Mark Scheifele, guys like Blake Wheeler, Nikolai Ehlers, whom I'm expecting a big season of, and Kyle Connor are excellent players. At the back, Morrissey and Pionk are not bad at all, but I just don't think that overall that team can compete with Colorado. Then we have the Pacific, and the Pacific, it's between two teams again. It's Edmonton or Vegas. Now, I do think Vancouver is going to be a good team as well and likely to make the playoffs. LA could surprise a few people here and there by nicking a few points off of the bigger teams like Vegas, like Edmonton. And Calgary as well, I'm expecting big things of. Now, Calgary last year in the Canadian division wasn't good. And I think a lot of people expected a lot more from Calgary. I think, had them second in my predictions for the North Division. They obviously did not do that. They lost Mark Giordano. That's a big loss. But overall, I do think they still have a lot in their team and in their system to do well, to perhaps finish second or third, but I don't think they can finish first. However, I think Edmonton could potentially finish first simply because of that McDavid and Draisaitl duo in the forwards. I like what Edmonton has done, but equally, I don't like what they've done. I like what they've done offensively. They've added Hyman. That's a good add, I think, on the McDavid line with Puljujarvi. That means that on the second line, you can have Draisaitl with Nugent Hopkins, with Yamamoto. I think that's actually a really good top 6. And then the bottom 6, you have guys like McLeod, like Zach Gashin, who should be bottom 6 guys. They shouldn't be top 6 guys. But it's a good bottom 6 to have, I think. And Warren Fogle, it's a good... he's good on the third line, potentially the fourth line, depending on where they play him. But then when you look at what they have at the back, they've added Cody Ceci, they've added Duncan Keith, who just wasn't good. Duncan Keith isn't... He's a Hall of Famer, but he isn't the player that he used to be. Duncan Keith is... I don't know why you would add him. They lost Ethan Bear. That's a good young prospect gone. But Evan Bouchard, I'm expecting to come into the lineup on the second or third pairing and do some good there. Darnell Nurse is a good player, obviously. But Tyson Berry, defensively, again, his partner isn't the best. And then at the back, you've got Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith. Mike Smith is going to be the starter. And apparently they were in for Darcy Kemper. Obviously, they didn't get Darcy Kemper. Alex Stalock is not going to play. There's only so much that a good offense can do, in my opinion. And I just don't think that Edmonton defensively has what it takes to beat Vegas to that top spot in the Pacific. Then we have the Atlantic, and the Atlantic, it really could go to anyone, I think. Not anyone, but there's 3-4 teams that are battling for it. And it'll be interesting to see what happens, because when you look at Buffalo, I mean, Buffalo is a dead last case, but you look at teams like Detroit, you look at teams like Ottawa, who, yes, are not likely to make the playoffs. But Ottawa, if they can figure out the Brady Tkachuk issue, they have great players in Josh Norris, Drake Batherson, Stutzler, Tkachuk, Chabot. Their goalie situation, yes, they bet on Ryan Murray, but they still have quite a good few young players coming through, and they can cause problems against any team, in my opinion. So I think it's going to come down to who can not only take points off of their direct rivals, but who can avoid losing points against Detroit and Ottawa. Detroit, yes, without Jacob Vrana, but Lucas Raymond has come in and he's looking like a candidate for the Calder. Dylan Larkin is a good player. They've added Nick Leddy, which I'm a big fan of. Is a very, very decent addition at the back. Alex Nedeljkovic, obviously. So Detroit as well is on the up. Now, they won't be great. They might not even be good. But Detroit as well could take some points off of the big guys. And then Montreal, it's interesting because Montreal, I don't think, is likely to make the playoffs. But if they do, they'll be dangerous in the playoffs. They're a team that is set up to be a playoff team, in my opinion, not a regular season team. In the regular season, they might struggle, but if they get to the playoffs, they'll be a difficult team to play against. I don't think Montreal makes it. And as a Leafs fan, I would like to sit here and say the Leafs are going to finish first in their division, but I don't think they will, simply because you look at Florida, excellent team. I like the addition of Reinhart. You look at Tampa Bay, yes, they lost the entire third line, but they added Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, who's a good bottom six forward. They've added Corey Perry for the third line, which is really good in my opinion. They added Zach Bogosian, who can be that sixth or seventh defenseman. And I'm a big, big fan of Zach Bogosian. They've got Ross Colton coming through. And then obviously they have the guys like Vasilevsky, Kucherov, Point, Hedman, who arguably are one of the best, if not the best, in their position. So I'm going to go with Tampa Bay. But I think that Florida will compete for that top spot. Boston, I just don't think they are ready yet with their young players. But I also think that older players like Bergeron might drop off just a little, and they will make the playoffs, but they won't finish first. Then next, the Metropolitan, and the Metropolitan is the hardest to call. You've got Carolina, you've got New York, both New York teams. You've got Pittsburgh, Washington, Philadelphia did a few good things in the offseason. Obviously, getting Cam Atkinson in, they got Ryan Ellis in. Yes, they got Rasmus Ristolainen. And I do like the addition of Rasmus Ristolainen, actually, as a third pairing defenseman. If you need someone to make those hits, if you need someone to be a bit more physical with reduced time, I think Ristolainen can be an effective defenseman. But obviously that remains to be seen if they do put him in the third or if they put him in the second or the first. I wouldn't put him in the top six for defensemen, but in the top four, sorry. But as a fifth or sixth defenseman, I think Ristolainen is a good addition. Ryan Ellis is a good addition. Cam Atkinson to the forward group is a good addition as well. And then it depends on the bounce back season from Carter Hart or not. But in my opinion, it's going to be between the two New York teams and Carolina. I don't think Pittsburgh is likely to make the playoffs, in my opinion. Maybe as a wildcard team, but I'm not sure. They are going to be without Crosby for the beginning of the season. They're going to be without Malkin in December. I'm not confident in Tristan Jarry. The Washington Capitals, I love Alex Ovechkin, but he's going to slow down a little every year. I don't know how much. I still project him to have 41 goals, in my opinion. But I don't think the Washington Capitals are a team that can compete for that top spot in their division. New York, I like what they've done. They've got young guys coming through, Lafreniere, Kako, who I'm expecting a lot of. They've got Fox, they've got Miller at the back, and then they've got the established guys like Panarin, like Zibanejad, like Jacob Trouba. Shesterkin in goal is a very good goalie. Georgiev is a good backup. And then they added Ryan Reeves, I'm a big fan of as well, not only because of his physicality, but if you need some energy, if you need someone to hit, to tire out the opponents, Ryan Reeves is the guy for that. But then New York, the Islanders, a Lou Lamoriello team is always going to be good. A Barry Trotz team is always going to be good. They might not be the most exciting, they might not score the most, but they're going to be very solid defensively. They're going to be very structured. They're going to have a game plan for every team, for every option that every team presents to them. And then Carolina, they lost Nedeljkovic. They lost Dougie Hamilton. Yes, they added Tony DeAngelo, who, offensively is really good. Defensively, I'm not convinced. I'm going to go with the New York Rangers. Yeah. Could be Carolina, could be the Islanders, and then again, Columbus is not a bad team. Could take points off of teams in their division. So are the New Jersey Devils, in my opinion. The Metro will be very interesting and very exciting, but I'm going to go with the Rangers because Panarin, Zibanejad, and then their defense and the young guys coming through, I think, is a very, very solid core to have. And with the fans in attendance, although that might play into the New York Islanders' favors, I think the fans in New York with the Rangers, when the team gets hot, will give that extra boost for the Rangers, in my opinion, to come out on top of their division. So, who wins the Stanley Cup? I'm going to go with Colorado. I don't think Vegas. Vegas, in my opinion, defensively great team. Offensively, they're solid. At the back and goal with Leonard, they're solid. But I don't know if they've got that hunger yet. Colorado, for a few years, have been close, very, very close. So have Vegas. But I don't know if Vegas has the same hunger than Colorado has for the finals, to get to the finals, to win those finals. And I just think Colorado is more likely than Vegas to make it to the finals. And then on the other side, you've got Tampa Bay, you've got the Rangers, the Hurricanes. I just think that Tampa Bay, with the long 2 seasons that they had in the previous 2 seasons, obviously getting to the finals, winning the finals, the shortened off season, potential injuries to Steven Stamkos, potential injuries to Victor Hedman, maybe even Andrei Vasilevsky if he gets injured. That's going to be a big loss, and I do think one of those players will get injured, and that'll be a big loss. So I don't think Tampa Bay will make the playoffs. They'll probably make the conference finals, but I don't think that if they make the finals, or they might not even make it to the finals, but if they do, I don't think that they've got what it takes to overthrow Colorado in terms of that hunger, because obviously they won 2 in a row. Yes, they'll be hungry to get 3 in a row, but I don't think that the hunger to get 3 will be as big as the hunger to get the first one for guys like McKinnon and Landeskog and Rantanen. So I'm going to go with Colorado. Who finishes dead last? Now, who gets so not necessarily that team won't necessarily get the first draft pick, but who gets the first draft pick? And it's between 2 teams, obviously. It's between Buffalo and it's between Arizona. Now, if you look at Buffalo, they will be without Jack Eichel. They've got guys like Rasmus Dahlin who could be good, but they lost Reinhart. Their goalie situation is horrendous. So is Arizona's, to be fair, but Arizona still has a few guys like Christian Fischer. They have a few guys like Gostisbehere, who I think is better than any defenseman that Buffalo has currently, even though Dahlin might have a great year. Currently, Gostisbehere is still better, in my opinion, than any of the defensemen Buffalo has. Christian Fischer is decent. Clayton Keller is decent. Dylan Gunter is a good prospect for Arizona. So I think there's a few things that might go right for Arizona, but I don't think they'll finish. They'll get the first draft pick. They probably will draft in the top 4, but I think it'll be Buffalo who gets that first draft pick. They will get Shane Wright, in my opinion. I just don't see Buffalo winning many games at all. It won't be good. But I think that's it for the team's prediction in terms of who I think wins the President's Trophy. Again, I can't look past Colorado. I think Colorado this year, it's make or break for a lot of people, and I think they are starting to realize that as well in Colorado. So I think for the President's Trophy and for the Stanley Cup, I'm going to go with the Colorado Avalanche. Now, individual players. The Hart Trophy, in my opinion, will go to McKinnon. If he gets that team to the President's Trophy, if he gets that team to the Stanley Cup Finals or the Stanley Cup victory, it's going to go to McKinnon, even though the Hart Trophy should be voted on for the regular season. For the Vezina, I'm going with Andrei Vasilevsky. He's just a class above everyone else. He just is. Connor Hellebuck is great. John Gibson is good. Darcy Kemper is good. I just can't see anyone getting that Vezina over Andrei Vasilevsky. He's just that good. Most points, I think, will go to Connor McDavid. I could see Kucherov or Draisaitl or McKinnon get very close to what Connor McDavid will put up. But I think Kucherov will score a little less because he's on that line with Braden Point, and Braden Point might take a few of those points. And the power play, for example, will not necessarily go through Kucherov like it will go through McDavid. Same story for Nathan McKinnon, and then obviously it's between Draisaitl and McDavid. And I just think with the speed that McDavid has, with the hands that McDavid has, is just slightly better than Draisaitl, and therefore I think he's going to put up slightly more points than Draisaitl and McDavid for the most points. In terms of goal scoring, who gets a Rocket Richard? I mentioned earlier, there's obviously the guys like Ovi who will score a lot of goals. Laine could score a lot of goals. There's David Pastrnak, Draisaitl, McDavid, Matthews. Ovi, I think, is going to take a small step back. I still expect him to have more than 40 goals, but not many more than that. I think 41 is somewhere right. Mika Zibanejad as well, somewhere between 40 and 45. Mikko Rantanen maybe between 40 and 45. So it's really between Draisaitl, McDavid, Pastrnak, and Matthews. I think McDavid and Draisaitl will split goals in terms of on the power play and on their line where they need goals. So I don't think either of them will get it. And then Pastrnak or Matthews. I know Matthews will miss a few games at the beginning of the season, but I do think he's more important to the Leafs than Pastrnak is to the Bruins, and therefore I'm going to go with Matthews as the Rocket Richard winner with 56 goals. 56. But don't take my word for it. Obviously, could be anyone else, could be more, could be less. Conn Smythe, I mean, that depends on who wins the Stanley Cup, but again, I think McKinnon wins the Conn Smythe, wins the Hart, is going to take a lot. The Calder Trophy is very interesting. You've got obviously guys like Cole Caulfield. Apparently, Alex Nedeljkovic is up for the Calder, but I don't think he'll get it on Detroit. Lucas Raymond, I would have said maybe Alexander Holtz, but he's not made the New Jersey Devils squad to begin with. So he might come in during the season, obviously. But yeah, it's between Caulfield and Lucas Raymond. And then you've got Zegras, you've got Drysdale. Am I forgetting someone? I'm probably forgetting someone. Cole Perfetti might be a good one as well. Bowen Byram. But I am... I am going to go with... It's a hard one. It's a very, very hard one. You know what? I'll say Lucas Raymond, because I feel like he'll have just slightly more playing time than Cole Caulfield might maybe have. Caulfield will probably be a first liner, but if you need goals, Tyler Toffoli is a guy that can score on the Canadiens. You've got Nick Suzuki, who's capable of a goal here and there. You've got Mike Hoffman, who's a perennial 30-goal scorer. So I feel like in terms of points, Cole Caulfield might just get slightly less than Lucas Raymond, because Lucas Raymond is going to play is going to have a bigger role on the Red Wings, I think, than Caulfield on the Canadiens. Now, obviously, I could be wrong, and I could absolutely see Cole Caulfield win the Calder. It's a 50-50 really for me, Caulfield or Raymond. I'm going to go with Raymond, but if Byron maybe gets it, or even Caulfield, no surprise there. I think that's everything that I needed to cover. If I've forgotten something, I apologize. I didn't have a script or anything. I just had the divisions in front of me and players off the top of my head. Obviously the Norris Trophy for best defenseman. Again, Cale Makar, Adam Fox, or Hedman. I'm gonna go with Cale Makar. I think in my prediction, I'm all in on the Avalanche. So I think Cale Makar for the Norris as well. So that's it for this video. If you've enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to the channel. Please like the video. If you've watched this, why? But thank you very much. And I'll talk to you later.